So, for a esteemed audience who's watching or listening to us, you don't have a script in front of you. All of this is extemporaneous that you're carrying around in your mind. You've
Yeah.
written an entire first-person, present tense account from Dolley Madison. How do you go about doing the research that you need to do? How do you put yourself in that mindset?
Well, I actually, since it's technically a children's book, although lots of adults have read it and enjoyed it, I start off a lot with really simple. Like I start with like Wikipedia, and I start with children's books, and because I really didn't know that much about Dolley Madison or the War of 1812, and then I basically just start collecting books. And I'm a nerd with the Amazon package thumps on the front steps, and I go down and tear open the plastic bag. But I do that, and like I went to Montpelier a bunch of times. I did a special Dolley Madison tour there. I've met and made a wonderful friend in Boston. She has a business called History at Play, and she does, with the pandemic, she does all sorts of different portrayals of little known yet important American women. But like she portrays Dolley Madison, so I've seen that. And I actually saw a woman who portrayed Suki, who was Dolley Madison's enslaved servant. But a lot of it was fun of just traveling around, going to Montpelier. There's also a James Madison Museum in Orange that I went to and got a speeding ticket on the way there. So be careful when you're in Orange, Virginia. There's a big speed trap.
You were very excited to get there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's a great museum. And so I visited the Octagon House up in Washington City, where Dolley and James moved into after the president's house was burned down. So that was really neat. They have a sign in front of it, and it's got a picture of Madison, and it says, it's 1812. Do you know where your president is? And so that's just a block or two from the White House. So, and then I had the opportunity to go into the White House, and I got to see a picture of George Washington's huge portrait on the East Room of the White House, where same place where Teddy Roosevelt's kids would roller skate. And I think Lyndon Johnson's daughter got married in that room as well. But then they have a portrait of Dolley Madison in next door in the parlor. Of course, this is a new building because they had to rebuild the building, but her parlor was right next to the East Room. So they put the Gilbert Stuart portrait of Dolley, they put it over through the doorway. So basically they have the Dolley Madison portrait where she can look over the portrait of George Washington and keep an eye on it. So that's just a little history geek humor of the way they positioned the painting, whoever, had a good sense of humor. So yeah, I love to be able to do the exploration and go out and actually go to these places and talk to people. And like the researchers at Montpelier were very, very helpful. Hope Hicks gave me some of her papers that she's written and was really helpful. So so it's fun to read the books, and the Dolley Madison papers are online through UVA, and you can also order a book with her letters in it, and the books are all quoted. But it was neat because with the Revolutionary War, there's so much information when I was researching for my first book. But the character of my first book, Susanna Bolling, there was very little information about her. And then this was kind of the flip side is, there's not quite as much about the War of 1812, but there were, volumes and volumes and volumes about Dolley. So that was kind of neat. But but I love just, collecting all the books and even there's even a like a PBS documentary about Dolley that I watched on TV. But I mean, I think the book would make such a great movie. And the War of 1812 is so exciting. We haven't even talked about the Battle of New Orleans. I mean, that was just like unbelievable. That would just make such a phenomenal movie. So it was neat of just kind of, just reading and traveling around, just all kinds of day trips, and then finding other history geeks along the way. I've got now a really good friend. His name is Kyle Jenks, and he does an interpretation of James Madison, and he's phenomenal. So I met him at a group called History Camp. We met, it was before the pandemic. So he lives in Philadelphia, but I've also met another interpreter at, there's another interpreter at Monticello, I'm sorry, at Montpelier, who does an excellent job as well. But so it's fun to kind of, the history geeks you meet along the way really make it a lot of fun. So another friend I met, she's done, her group is, it's called Digital Yarbs, YARBS, but she's made these portraits, like basically 3D, like facial portraits of Madison. She's a big fan of Madison as well. And I'm probably not using the right lingo for it. It's life mask. And so she's created these different life masks. So she's another one, really neat person. And so even like yesterday we were emailing, and so that's been really, really fun, just with all of the whole, writer's journey of, like yesterday I sent copies of Dolley Madison and the War of 1812 off to Mount Vernon. And that was like the best feeling in the world, to send that off on George Washington's birthday to Mount Vernon. And I've got it in Colonial Williamsburg and lots of other places. So I've spoken to lots and lots of different groups. I mean, in addition to schools, I've spoken to lots of Daughters of the American Revolution group, Sons of the American Revolution, all kinds of historical societies. And it's really fun because it's just this, love of our country and love of history that unites us. And to have these friends that are, that ostensibly you'd look on paper and think, oh, you have nothing in common. And yet now they're really good friends. And, nobody cares what kind of car you drive or what neighborhood you live in, or, any of the kind of suburban things that people get caught up in. It's just neat to have this whole like different kind of friendship based on shared interests. So I feel very lucky to have even, to be part of this, to be on this podcast. It's just wonderful to kind of share the, my passion for history that I didn't really discover till I was in my 40s when I first started writing my first book. So people always ask me, oh, were you a history major and this and that? And I'm like, no, I thought history was boring. I used to go to Colonial Williamsburg and I'd go to the outlets, and my husband would laugh and say, there's a whole nother part of Colonial Williamsburg. And I'm like, yeah. And now I go there and I don't even go to the outlets. So that's why I like writing in the middle grade genre, and kind of, geared to kind of the 12-year-old, of trying to introduce them to history, that history can be fun and exciting and entertaining. It's not necessarily just dates and places and boring facts to memorize, that it's stories about people and quirky people. And so I'd love to inspire them, so that I wish I had started as a historian when I was 12, instead of discovering my love for history in my 40s. So that's why I love trying to get them excited about history.